Welcome back to Real Talk with Brian and Dan on 1150 AM KKNW. I'm Brian.
And I'm Dan.
Our next guest is Janis Bayley with Metamorphosis Coaching, LLC. Janis has a master's in behavioral science from Bastyr University. He has worked as a marriage and family therapist for group health, as well as a tobacco cessation coach and social worker. Janis was born and raised locally on Mercer Island, but promptly left the Rock to go to Lewis and Clark College and then to San Francisco. She worked for Nordstrom in the Northern California region for many years in both the retail and corporate side of the business. Janis lives here in the Seattle area with her husband and son. She loves dancing, art, laughing, friends, and family, connecting to spirit, gardening, and animals, and expanding what is possible for the world. Welcome to the show, Janis.
Thank you for having me.
So we like to ask each of our guests to share a fond memory of the home they grew up in. Tell us about that.
Well, I grew up in Mercerdale until I was like 10 or 9. And I remember very distinctly in our basement, I had like half of the basement for myself, and I had gotten a cardboard kitchen that I could play house. Like I set up my whole house. I had this whole area. It was very good memories.
Wow. So you said Mercerdale?
Mercerdale, yeah, which is near the downtown area.
It's on the island, so it's on Mercer Island.
It's on Mercer Island, and it's a neighborhood called Mercerdale.
I should know that.
Kind of near the fire station.
Okay. So you've been on the island your whole life?
Well, no. I mean, I promptly moved away at 18.
Okay. But then came back.
No, actually, yeah. So I did grow up on Mercer Island, but my parents, they built a house on the water and so I grew up after age 10 or so on East Mercer Way.
Oh, nice. That's fantastic. Yeah. So, all right. So what is your quarantine hobby? What is something you've acquired, good or bad habit, while you're in quarantine?
It's not a lot different. I work via phone and Zoom most of the time. I'm not going out, obviously, as much as I used to, which actually creates a little more time. What I have been really enjoying, except for now it's raining, is gardening. I've been cleaning up and taking care. And then also I'm purging. I'm getting rid of stuff I don't need. And so
awesome.
Lightening up a little bit for spring.
Great. So let's jump into this life coach thing.
Yeah.
Janis, what is a life coach?
So a life coach is, it's a partnership. I get hired to help people accomplish their goals and their aspirations. And it's very much like a pilot and a co-pilot. I'm the co-pilot and they're the pilot. They say where they want to go, and I help them get there. There's going to be probably some turbulence and some challenges and whatever, and we work through it and get to the finish line of where they want to land.
So how is life coaching different from counseling or therapy?
They're sister professions. They're both obviously helping professions and complementary, but they are very different. Therapy and counseling, which I have done, is focused on healing. It comes from the medical pathology mindset, and it really, legally they need to have a diagnosis and a treatment plan. And coaching is just very different. The person is considered a client, for one, and they are fully capable of achieving whatever they set their minds to, and as long as they're willing to work through it and to stick to it. So coaching is about the future. It's about empowerment and action and taking risks. And therapy is more focused on safety and healing and feelings.
Interesting.
Okay. So then how did you get into the life coaching side of things?
Well, it's a long story, which I will not go into, but it is an amazing series of events, a lot of serendipity, and I believe I was guided to this work. It's become my vocation, not just a profession. A few years back, I was going into a meditation, which I do most mornings, and I just casually asked, like, the universe, God, whatever you want to address, the higher spirit. And I asked, what's my next chapter? I'm almost 60. Like, where can my gifts and talents be of service and I can still earn an income? And when I came out of the meditation, a word popped in my head and it said life coach. And I went, no, I don't want to do that. So, and then I forgot about it. And then like 3 months later, I happened to be in Canada, which I rarely go to, happened to be having a conversation with someone I'd never met. And they were telling me some amazing things they're up to, like an orphanage in Kenya and so forth. And I was just really taken aback, or taken by their power and their influence in the world. And at some point in the conversation, she handed me a business card and said, when are you going to check out this coaching training program I'm starting next month? And I was like, oh, wow, okay. And so, of course, I wanted to look cool too, right? I mean, I didn't want to be, I was so impressed with her. So I show up a few weeks later, and in my head, I'm thinking, yeah, I'm kind of doing them a favor, right? I'm kind of doing what I said I would do, right? Because I want to be integrous. So within a half hour of this observation of this class, I was completely blown away. And I knew that this was more for me than anybody else. So I enrolled in the training program, and I went, started a couple weeks later. So this all happened very fast. And I had this idea, this assumption that it was going to be kind of easy for me because of my background in counseling and because I was guided and this will be my natural self-expression or something. Well, it was the opposite. It was so challenging. So all my fears, all my insecurities, everything came up, and I worked through it. The point of my story and sharing this is that, by me saying, yes, I will check this out, it opened up opportunities. I wouldn't be here talking with you if I hadn't said yes and if I hadn't persevered. So I get through the year, and then, start a business, which I had never imagined doing. Now have a website, and here I am talking to you on radio. Wow. Like, could not have imagined it a couple of years ago.
That's awesome.
That's an amazing story.
Hence the name Metamorphosis Coaching.
Yeah. Who hires a life coach and why?
People hire coaches because they want something. They either want to do something, be something, or have something. And perhaps they have tried to accomplish whatever they are wanting to accomplish. And they may have run into roadblocks, circumstances, challenges, or they may not have even ever started because they didn't think they could. So a coach is hired for two reasons, really: velocity and accountability. To have someone kind of hold your hand and say, you can do this, and let's create a path on how to get there. And then when turbulence happens, going back to that co-pilot analogy, we'll figure it out. Through commitment and perseverance and being in action. So there's insights. That's an important piece to coaching, but there's also the aspect of being in action. That's how results get created. So I'm there as a cheerleader, as a co-pilot, to get through to whatever it is that stops people in life. And almost everybody has something that stops them in life.
Wow, that's I like the velocity and accountability. I like that statement. I hire a coach for my real estate coaching,
Sure.
and accountability has always been part of it, but velocity. And I think a velocity is starting from one space and getting to another space, but accelerating while doing it. And I think that's a great word. Thank you. I just thought I'd point that out. It's a great word.
Yeah.
So how do you differ from what, say, a career coach has to offer?
Well, I coach the whole person. That's just my how I was trained, and I figure if someone, how we're being at work, whether it be micromanaging or being laissez-faire or whatever, is going to be how we pretty much show up in the rest of our lives. And so the relationships we have with our families, or coworkers, or even the relationship we have with ourselves, right? So I coach the whole person, and what ends up happening is that we're working in one area, but it impacts all kinds of other areas of their lives.
Gotcha.
Janis, do you have a client success story you can share with us?
I do. Well, I'll qualify. So because of confidentiality, which is really, really important, I'm going to just talk about the types of clients that I work with and the challenges they face. So I have worked with clients who are indecisive. They feel stuck and frustrated. They are wanting, they're wanting approval. They're worried about what people think of them. And then because of that, they're actually not moving their lives forward. And they're also they're totally affected by their environment. Like, they're not sourcing their own power in decision making and so forth. So, I've worked with people like that, and it's so cool to watch people blossom. They become assertive. They actually know that they have needs and that that's perfectly fine. And then, from that place of who they're being, they can create, they can have their dream job. They can actually, have the partnership with their spouse that they really want. All kinds of cool things. Then there's the flip side. There's people who are like overly confident and think that they're almost omnipotent and that they can do so many things in one day. And what happens with those people often is they get burned out. They're always disappointed at the end of the day because they didn't do enough. And when they're not doing, they're uncomfortable and a lot of anxiety comes up. And so working with those people to slow things down, which is a challenge, especially in this time now where we're at home so much and so forth. I imagine there's a lot of people who are just like chomping at the bit because they're having to be with themselves. So in that case, the learning is slowing down actually increases your productivity because you're being a lot more intentional.
Slow down
and
to speed
more
up.
creative.
Excuse me, to sneeze. Thank you.
More creative.
No problem.
So we have time for one last question. So when somebody wants to look to hire a coach, a life coach, what is the most important thing? And then how do people get a hold of you?
Oh, yeah. So the make sure that the person, the coach is ICF, is a member of the ICF, which is International Coaching Federation. It's a self-governed body for ethics and standards to make coaching a professional standards. Right now, there's no licensing. And then the other is to make sure that they actually talk with the person. Don't just hire someone off because a friend said it was good or the website looked good or whatever. Talk with the person. It's a relationship that really makes coaching successful. And make sure it's just a good fit and that you really click with the coach that you end up hiring.
Awesome.
Janis, thank you for coming on the show today.
Yeah, thank you.
Tell our listeners how they can reach you.
Well, My website is metamorphosiscoaching.life. And my phone number is 503-468-6081.
Thank you, Janis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah. Remember, all segments of our show are available to watch on our YouTube channel. If you're interested in learning more about any of our guests, please subscribe. Join us after the break for some final thoughts and something fun to do. We'll be right back.